Hey sports fans, good afternoon. Thanks for watching the Baddest Z in the Land channel. A channel that's focused on a 1992 300 ZX twin turbo, nicknamed Lil Red. This is an opening clip for a mod upgrade we're going to be doing soon. What you see in front of you on the counter is an AEM temperature gauge. So I'll zoom in and give you hopefully a better view of that. I'm not sure if I'm in the creating a shadow. So this is a 0 to 300 Fahrenheit temperature gauge, digital. And the reason that we want this is not that Lil Red is overheating, but it is summertime. And we do occasionally use the AC. Air conditioning system does work in Lil Red. But of course, in traffic, Lil Red doesn't like to be in traffic ever anyway. And can you blame a sports car for not wanting to sit at a stoplight with a bunch of people in minivans when it's hot outside? It doesn't overheat, but it gets hot. So a engine can be hot without overheating. We do have a fully functional auxiliary fan that we recently did a series of GoPro clips and posted on the channel of reinstalling the auxiliary fan. We deleted it back in January when we were building back the front end of the Z, intercooler pipes, radiator, condenser, and all of that, because we were told by some people that we trust in Phoenix that they don't run them, that they deleted theirs and been driving it for 9 years without it overheating. Well, it's difficult to believe that because that's Phoenix. Now, if they're on the highway, I totally understand. If you're in Lil Red on the highway, even if it's 95 degrees out and you're driving down the highway at 70 miles an hour, Lil Red, it's going to pretty much stay temperature-wise about in the middle, which would probably be around 170, 180 degrees. But you get into a situation when say you've been driving, you pull off the highway, you're instantly going to hit a red light, and then the temperature starts climbing. It's just the way it is. Even if you have one of these Z32 twin turbos and your auxiliary fan is working fine, which it doesn't even come on until 200 degrees. So the motor is already very hot when the fan comes on. I wish it would come on at a much lower temperature than that. I have done some homework and don't know how to program that differently. I don't think Nistune has the capability to set a temperature I want it to come on. I wish I did, because I would have it come on at like 160 degrees. I'd have the fan come on and we wouldn't reach 180. We would never get to 200 if we had that fan on as the motor's heating up. But that's a project that we have not, a problem that we have not solved. Not a project. It would be a project if we find out there is a way to do it, because we're doing it. But so in the meantime, instead of trusting an old 31-year-old needle type temperature gauge in the dash gauge cluster of the Z, we want this. We want a digital readout. I want to know exactly what the temperature is, because if it gets up here right in the center, you see where my finger is, that's 200, directly up at where 12 o'clock would be on a clock dial. If it gets to 200, we know, we've proven by testing that the auxiliary fan is going to come on. Now it comes on in low speed. It has a low and high first, and then if the temperature keeps increasing, it's going to kick into high speed. At some point, with that fan on high and the main fan behind the radiator pulling air through the condenser in the radiator, you're going to reach a maximum cooling point, and that's it. That's both of those fans operating together, the auxiliary fan on high and the main fan running off of engine RPMs. That's all you're getting. You're not getting any more, and in some situations your car might overheat. One of these Z's might overheat. So you see here different fittings. This one fitting with the black piece coming off of it, that's the actual temperature sensor, and they have two different fittings. So depending on what the size of your fitting is in your engine block, they have 2 different ones. It will determine that, but what we're going to basically be doing is taking one of the temperature sensors out of the block of the Z and inserting this one. So there are 2 sensors in the block of the Z32. One goes, that input goes to the ECU. The other one goes to the gauge. We don't want to tamper with the temperature gauge that goes to the ECU temperature sensor, excuse me. And so we're going to determine which one goes to the gauge by just disconnecting it. So we'll start the car, let it warm up until we have a reading on the needle gauge that's in the gauge cluster. Now we'll then go out in front of the motor and unplug one of the sensors that are in the top of the block right there where the radiator inlet hose is, and we'll just go back and look at the gauge. If it goes immediately to 0, then we found the sensor that we're going to pull out, and this is going to go in. And you see here, holding in my hand, this is the wiring harness. So one end of this is going to plug into the back of the gauge. This white part, I'll show you on the back, see where that's going to plug in. Also on the other side, this black piece is going to plug into the sensor itself. And then we're going to use the red and black wires you see here. That's going to be our positive and negative. The other brown and the white wire, that's for data logging. So if you were installing this in a race car, they would run this brown and white wires to a data logging system, and that system would be monitoring the temperature of the coolant. So this is a future project. This is the intro clip. Lil Red gets an AEM temperature gauge. We recently installed both a AEM GPS speedo and an AEM boost gauge, and we really love AEM gauges. Are excellent. They're not cheap, but around $200 you get what you pay for, and they're real high quality. The visual on the displays are just super easy to read, and so we're going to be installing our third AEM gauge. So stand by. When we get into this project, we'll show you more clips of how we're going to do it, where we're going to put it, and how we're going to route the wiring, how we're going to get up the 12 volts positive that we need to power the gauge, and all of that will be in subsequent clips. All right. Hey, thanks for watching this channel. Even if you don't have a Z32 twin turbo, you may be wanting to install one of these AEM temperature gauges, and a lot of what we're going to show you will translate. Now, you're going to have to give it a power source. I mean, you're going to see how it's done in a Z32. You're going to have to run that sensor into your block at some point and route all that cabling. So we're going to show you how to do it in a Z32, and if you have any other car, you're going to be happy because your car is much easier to work on than ours. All right, we'll see you soon.